I have a Gorgar MPU and driver board pair on my test rig this morning, and I powered them up just a second ago. There's quite a bit of excitement as the chip here, I've replaced it, let out the smoke. Now, why would it do that? I have no earthly idea, but I did test these transistors that are in the same circuit. These are two N6427s, and the second one from the bottom had tested failed. It was null on one leg and I think 0.1 on the other leg, but it was way out of spec compared to the rest of the transistors. And I did not change the corresponding tip 42, and I'm powering it up for the first time, so you get to share the excitement with me this morning. Here we go. Well, so far so good. Lamp matrix is operating. I mean, electronics are funny. You expect something to go whoosh, and it doesn't. So that's a good thing. All right, so we have powered up. Let me tell you what I did to this board. First, I added a blanking indication, and I have to label that for the client, even though it's a pretty knowledgeable client. I replaced the 100 microfarad filter cap on the 5-volt power input and all the headers. Every single header. The 40-pin interconnect header. All the headers on the driver board. It's 5-volt filter cap too. The board set was sent to me as being unreliable or intermittent, inconsistent. You know, all euphemisms for the same thing, is it just doesn't work consistently. So what you can do for things like that is definitely change out this 40-pin interconnect, which was not changed before. So I did that. And this board has the ScanB sockets. These are remaining because we don't need those, but it had 1, 2, 3, 4 24-pin ScanB sockets, and the microprocessor's 40-pin socket was also a ScanB socket, so had to replace those. What is that? 24 times 4 is 96, plus 40 is 136 socket pins that needed to be removed. I removed the 5101 and replaced it with a brand new 5101 that a fella named Zona Pinball is now producing. And I'm kind of testing this one out. I'm sure it's going to work. It's now made with the correct spacing between the legs, so it fits perfectly in a 5101 socket. So let's put it into test. Boy, my shade keeps falling down here. But the display is doing what it's supposed to do right now. It's been a while since I used this test rig, but let's see if I can remember how to use it. Okay, display test. Operating normally. And the next test is lamp test. It looks like I've got one LED on this panel, which is a little bit hinky. That means nothing for the board hardware. That's a failure of this LED block. And this one, whoa, this one looks bright. It just came on bright. Now that's what is that? Column 2, so I'm gonna have to look into that. Let's see, next test is solenoid test. And they don't proceed, as you might think, left to right, because when I asked Victor for help designing this board, we decided to lay it out. He came to the same conclusion that I did. I would assume that it's better to lay it out in the order that matches the way that the transistors on the actual board are laid out. So everything's working here. Let's test the special solenoid switch inputs. And those are working perfectly fine. And the next test is switch test. All right, that's enough of that. So I'm going to go through the diagonal of the switches, and Gorgar reports 44 switches. So let's see, let's test. That's column 6. That's good. Now I need to test these rows, the last bits of the rows. So that switch matrix is operating perfectly fine. We can advance to setting 18. There it is. And reverse the direction here. I'm going to set the max credits to setting 18 to 0. Midvale School for the Gifted going on right there. And now that this setting 18 has been set to 0, it should be on free play. The first thing is it booted normally here instead of booting into audits. So the last thing I need to figure out here is, why is column 2 so bright? Let me do a little investigation into that. All right, we are finally back. Let's boot this thing up. You can see it's not booting into audits, which shows that the NVRAM installation is working correctly. And let's get into test. Oh, here's the lamp matrix operating correctly now. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, I hate lamp matrix problems. Here's the display test again. And here's the lamp matrix. Once again, this single cell on this LED block is a problem. It's not a problem with the board. Well, after chasing my tail, as I frequently do with lamp matrix problems, and changing out 2 6427s and more than one tip 42, I took a shot and guessed that the 27 ohm 5-watt current limiting resistor associated with that column would test fine with a multimeter, but under load it was failing, and it must have been passing the current directly through. So I've replaced it with a brand new one from my stash of those, and you can see that now the lamp matrix is operating 100% correct. And so the next test is solenoid test, and we've been through this. Well, I just blinked and I missed solenoid 2, so I'll wait for that to come around again. Lem, gosh darn it, this board should have been acting this way at your shop too. I wonder why it wasn't. So those are the special solenoids, 1, 2, yay, everything's working correctly there. I already tested the switches, so this board set is good to go. Powering back on just for giggles. I'll let this run for a while and make sure that it's, I guess, burned in, but I don't suspect that we're going to see any issues with it. It is interesting how column 2 there, what would that be? Yeah, column 2, row 2 through 8, all turn on at the same time. I'm just for giggles, I'm going to check that in the Gorgar manual, but I have no doubt that this is now working properly. Thanks again.